Welcome all, Raymond for Street Gamers. Once again, here we are with our Cold and Dark series. I'm going to do an airliner. In this case, it's going to be the 747. Again, we won't be taking off, but we're going to go through how to get the thing started from Cold and Dark, sitting here on the ramp. What are the necessary steps to do all of that, as well to get a flight plan into the FMC and get ready for pushback, taxi, and all that kind of stuff. So let's, without further ado, let's get ourselves started. We have to take the covers off, and we also have to take these pitot tube covers off. Okay, and then we go inside the aircraft, which is there. Okay, so one of the first steps that we want to do is we want to come up to the overhead. We want to turn the battery on. We want to put the auto standby power on. We want to put the ground power on. That's what that is right there. We're going to go here, put the emergency lights on. Now I'll not necessarily go through the steps exactly how in the timeline in which an actual 747 pilot will. So if anybody has any comments to add to how I'm doing this and I should do it this way instead of that way in the comment section, I appreciate that. That's where it belongs. We want to put these switches to auto, these switches to off. Also, we want to make sure that we have our strobe is turned on, and we're going to start the APU. So we'll put the aft fuel pumps on. Now, I'm not 100% sure if you need to put these fuel pumps on, but we're going to do it anyways. Turn the APU on, and that gets us started with the APU, gets us going with the APU. We'll turn on our IRS alignment dealy whoppers. Okay, so next is what we're going to do now is we're going to get our flight plan set up. Now, unlike 2020, I haven't found a successful way of importing a flight plan from SimBrief into the Boeing lines of aircraft, that being the 747, the 787, and the 737. I haven't found a way to get the flight plans brought in where they come in and they work appropriately. I've been having some problems with them. So this system I have found, and it works well. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick peek at SimBrief. So there's the flight plan. The data in which I'm going to be using is here, but I will not be automatically putting it in there. So I'm going to be collecting the data out of my SimBrief for everything that we do here. So first things first, we click on the EFB, which we did up there. Then we want to put the departure, which is CYVR. We're going to put the arrival, which is KOAK. Oakland. There we go. So according to the flight plan, it says that we're taking off on 08 right. So we'll just go here to 08 right. Our initial altitude is 33,000, so 330. Our arrival is 030. Sorry, 30 at 30. Let's get that said appropriately. Now, it doesn't look like we have an actual departure. If we did, we could come here and pick our departure. Now, no, sorry, I take that back. So we have YY2. Is YYJ in there? No, YYJ is not in there. What you can do is when you do this, if you make this window bigger, you can come here and you can kind of look and pick your departure appropriately. So keep in mind, we're taking off here, we're going out to here, right? So you can decide if you would like to pick a departure, you can, even though SimBrief doesn't necessarily have one selected for you. In this case, I think I will. I'll pick that one. It'll take us out to there. So then we hit this. Let me make this smaller again. So then we hit change procedure. So we got that in. Now we're going to come down here. We're going to look at our arrival, which is Windsor 2. So we're going to click on this. We're coming in on 30. ILS 30. Are we using Fernie? No. No. Okay, so we'll change that, and then we'll go over here to arrival. W, that one, with that one. So if we look here, just so you can see what I'm looking at, that's what I'm picking it based off of right there, okay? And so you can see that's what I've picked there and there. Hit the procedure, put that in. So now, whoops, there we go. Now we got it in. So the next final piece of the puzzle is you can either hit add waypoints. So you can look at the flight plan and say which waypoints do I want to put in. Again, if I went down here, I could say, well, I'd like to put that VR in, that one in, that one in, and the rest are in there for us. So I could do that. I could just click on add and pick the very first one in here and say YYJ and put that in, or I can hit find route. And now it's found a route and it's actually picked us a route. So if we go here, let me get that out the way. You can see there's the route in which it picked for us. Now this doesn't necessarily mirror what is in SimBrief. But like I said before, if you had decided that you wanted to mirror SimBrief, you would then, instead of hitting find route, you would just add a waypoint and add the individual waypoints. All right, that's enough of that. The only thing we need to do from here forward is we need to, in a bit, let me go down to the FMC. I'm going to minimize that out of the way. So the next thing is right here. What we want to do here is we want to make sure that we go to init position. We want to put our reference airport, which is the airport in which we take off from. So for those that are struggling trying to get into here and find a way to click on these, you notice that it's actually selecting the speed brake, right? The hitbox is really big for the speed brake. It's right there, it's still on the speed brake even though it's here, right? And the same thing comes off to the side. Way over here, it's still on the speed brake. So if you want to pick like the Y key, I'm right on the edge of being able to pick it. What you do is you slide yourself over. I'm hitting the Shift and the D key. That's the default setup to be able to do this with. Now the hitbox is way over here, but I can hit the Y. And what was the next one? VR. And so V is there. I'll just slide over. V and R. There. That's our reference airport. That's what we're referencing, or the reference airport where we're actually sitting. Which airport we're actually sitting at. I'll get that right. Now, once we are here, if we bring this up, and if we scroll down here where it says File with ATC, let me move this over just a little bit. Two things I want you to kind of keep an eye on. So File with ATC, nothing changes here. Let me take that out just a skosh. There we go. So nothing changes here, nothing changes here. But as soon as when we hit send avionics, you note that there's this dotted line that's being established right here. But notice that there still is no magenta line. And that is because, or notice now the destination has been put in, but there is no magenta line. If you click on the legs page, it's all the legs are here. But what we have to do is we have to hit the execute button. And the minute you hit the execute button, you note that there is the magenta line starting to form. Now, in this flight plan, we have a vector here, which is going to break the flight plan up. So we would just simply, let me minimize that. We would just simply click on Yeti here. It puts it in a scratch pad. We put it over top of vector. Notice whenever you see something like that, where there's a highlight over MMOD, that means you have to hit the execute button. For whatever reason, in 2020, the execute button would light itself up. In 2024, it just doesn't seem to. And again, now notice how the magenta was going off in this direction, but now it's actually formed up with the rest of the flight plan. Okay, so we continue to go through our flight plan to make sure that there is no discontinuities, which I did see one. So I'm going to hit this, I'm going to hit back. There's the discontinuity over top of it. Hit the execute. There's another vector right there. Now, I've said this before, but the reality is those vectors being placed in there are, I believe, for ATC to tell the pilot, hey, you're leaving this waypoint and you're on your way over to that waypoint, but we're going to utilize ATC to kind of direct us that way. And ATC is going to say, hey, turn heading, blah, 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 reduce speed to XYZ, and descend to or climb to whatever they decide, right? Okay, there we go. Now, our FMC is set. The last piece of the puzzle is to actually get the aircraft started, and what are the steps necessary to get it started. So one thing that you want to be mindful of is this display right here is things that are important for you to be aware of. So the stuff that's in yellow is an important thing that you want to understand why it is there and how to address those things and turn them off. Likewise, this right here is also equally important, and we'll get to all of this. First things first is I want to deal with this with the TCAST, right? So if I go down here, your TCAST, I'll just turn that ever so slightly, but your TCAST is right there. Set that to TA/RA, and now if we looked, TCAST is gone. Okay. The next thing is we're going to address this WAI switches off. That's up here, and that is this switch right here. We want to make sure that these are all set to auto, and we won't have to deal with them later on. So another thing that we want now to look at is there any other things? So the engines are shut off, the packs are off, and that's all fine, well and good. Note that we wanted to climb to, we want to climb to 33,000 feet. So I'm going to set this to 33,000 now. I know that sometimes people will say, well, your transition is, climb to 5,000 feet and then go there. So you could theoretically set this to whatever those altitudes are set within. Let me back out of here. Back out of here, there. So later on, there's going to be information placed into here, and you could say, I don't want to climb all the way up to 33,000, but for my case, that's what I'm going to do. Now, another thing, what we want to do next is what? What do we want to do next? Let me just go over the overhead here and just make sure that I'm on par with what we're doing. We'll close that. Window heat's coming on. Yes. In order to start the engines, we're going to need the APU. So the APU is on, but we're going to need to turn the bleeds on. Now, I don't know that you need to turn all 4 bleeds on all at the same time, but I always do. I also put the packs on. I don't know if it's something you should be doing. Most aircrafts, you would have the packs off to start the engines, and then you would turn the packs on later. But I've been having problems getting this thing started. So I'm going to put on all the fuel pumps so that I don't forget. A 747 pilot recommended, while I watched him do this, said that these X feeds should be turned off. And likewise, I believe these pumps should be turned off. I believe these are the pumps that allow you to transfer fuel from here to here, or from here to here, but also, it can draw fuel. If I put that on, then this pump should be able to draw fuel from here and move it over there. So he said that these things should be turned off. True or not, I don't know. All right. Next thing, let's get the rest of our lights on. Not that we should turn them all on right now, but we're going to anyways. The APU is on, so I can switch over to the APU gens and disconnect the ground power. So that's been done. And just so you know, the starting of the engines, they are a really, really simple thing in the 747. There's not a lot of complexity here to this. So let's get the first one started. Ideally, you would push back and you would begin your start, but we'll do that right here, okay? So before we do that, let me just verify a couple of the rest of the FMC. There was some things on the FMC that still needs to be addressed. So let's go to index, let's go position. Oh, That's what I wanted to do. Let's deal with fuel. So we click on menu, we click on settings, we click on weight and balance. Now, in here is the fuel. If we look here again, we see that our fuel is 60,152. We know our estimated zero fuel weight is 679,960, and we are in our cargo 747, so we're carrying 232,512 pounds. So what we do is we go here. We're also having 22 passengers, so we go 22 passengers. Our cargo is 232,510. Now I want to be clear about one thing here about this. Cargo and payload are two different things. Cargo is just that, the cargo that you have in the cargo hold. Payload is, the way I understand this, is the cargo that you have in the cargo hold plus everything else, not including fuel. Okay? Right, not including fuel. So that would be like your passengers, right? So you'd see there's almost about 4,000 pounds here, which is probably these 22 passengers. Okay. And the next one is the fuel. So we want 60,000, so 60. Now, I'm pretty particular about the exactness because I want the numbers to line up as close as they can. Note that we have all this here and it says 671,935 for the zero fuel weight. 670,960. So we're about 1,000 pounds out, and that's been typically what I get is about 1,000 pounds out all the time. Why? I don't know. So the next thing is I see this CG here, which is 8.79, and the minimum CG is 11, and the maximum CG is 33. It is my opinion that if a person were to go here, which is this little dealy whopper, and this little dealy whopper, and if you go down to the airplane down here, hang on, let me get that closed off. There, airplane, there we go. Flight performance, mass and balance. Note that we have a discrepancy here. It says that it's at 9, but it's in yellow, and it's because, I believe it's because how the cargo is loaded into the aircraft and or how the fuel is loaded into the aircraft. Okay, so none of this has been set properly, and so all we've done is we've just dropped a block of cargo, whether we've put all of the cargo in the front and all of it in the back or equally front and back, and we've also just dumped a bunch of fuel, neither here nor there. What I always do is I pick, usually somewhere around 14, 15 is my CG. Now, I know that in time that we should be able to fix this more appropriately and exactly, but I can't figure out how this actually supposed to work properly. Because if I go into cargo, for example, if I go into cargo and I look at the front cargo hold, it says it got 55,000 pounds. If I look at this, this cargo hold, which is the middle of the cargo hold, it says I got 200,000. So that's 255,000 pounds. And if I go here, it says I got another 37. So 255,000, 287,000 pounds, but we don't. We have 232. I'm sure there's a method in how this works. If anybody has figured it out in the comment section, it would be greatly appreciated. Okay, anyways, so we're going to leave it. We're not going to worry about this anymore, but just I want you to note that when you're trying to figure out CG, look at this and you'll see that this CG is wrong. My suspicions are if I were to take some stuff away or add some stuff in here, I may correct that problem, but the flight plan says these are the stats that we should be using. All right. We're going to finish off here. Our zero fuel weight was 671.9, right? So 71.9. This is a zero fuel weight as in the FMC, not SimBrief, because, well, SimBrief is a little off from this. Our reserve is going to be 6,000. Okay? And our cost index comes from SimBrief, which is 25. Our cruising altitude was 33,000. So we got that all calculated, figured out. We switch over to the next. I rarely change anything in here. I know you're supposed to figure out some temperature setting to put into there. I haven't figured out how to do that just yet, but anybody who knows how to do that, go ahead, comment section, away you would go. So the final piece of the puzzle is the takeoff and the reference speed. So we know that typically a 747 uses 10 flaps from what I'm told. I know that I planned on using a CG of 14, so we'll put that in. Note that it gives us a trim of 8.3. That's important. We're going to make sure that we select our V speeds, and the 8.3 that we see there is something that we want to make sure says right here. So what we do is we move our there we go, and we move our trim wheel until this says 8.3. But we turn it the right, we move the trim wheel the right way. And what I'm understanding is that green band is the band in which that we need to be in order for it to take off. So do we have to be exactly 8.3? Well, based on these calculations, yes, but our CG isn't really correct. It's a made up CG that we expect it to be. That part now, the FMC now is now taken care of. It is now done. Now we're going to do the actual start. Let's just make sure. So 171 is our speed. We're going to come up here and 10 knots over that, so that's 181. If we want to know what our runway is, we can go here. We can go there. We can go to there. We can click on runway. We're taking off on 8 right. 8 right. There's 8 right. There's the information for the runway. Our heading is 8-4. Okay, so we want to switch this dealy whopper over to 8-4. And I always like to have my heading select on the runway heading, just in case if I have to fly manual and I want to hit autopilot, it'll just take up this heading, as it were. Okay. We want to make sure that our auto throttle is armed. We want to make sure that our flight directors have been turned on. And now we want to do the start. Okay, so the start, which is really simple, we go up to the overhead. We pull out the starter switch. That's been done. If we now look at our system down here, we see this is counting up. Typically, when this is at 1.9, we will put the fuel on. Okay, 1.5, 6, not 1.16, 19 point something or whatever. So we turn that on. Now, that means the engine is going to start coming up. You see where it says auto start? This will eventually say, it will be in green and it'll say it's started. When that happens, this little starter switch out here, which is hard to see on an angle, but you can see there it's kind of pulled out. When that happens, that little starter switch is going to go in and that engine is now started. We will start this engine, then we will start that engine, then we will start this engine. There it is. See, that engine is running. So pull that starter selector switch out. Wait for this to come up to 19. And you see this engine is running. We'll look down because we're going to put the fuel on. And again, we go up here. You can see that that switch is pulled out, and eventually it's going to drop back in. It'll take a second or two for that to actually take place, but it will pull back in. And so what we got here is we just need to repeat these steps for the remainder of the two engines. The aircraft is running. It should be configured mostly. We will go down and put, there it is, so it's on. So let's go down and start the other engine, 4. The only thing there's a few things that we haven't done yet, but we will do. One of them is we'll make sure the flaps are set, okay? Right now the flaps are set for 10. If you ever taxi Let me go down here and flip that switch on. If you ever start taxiing and you get a warning or a beeping warning flashing sound over here, this caution coming up, it is because you do not have the aircraft set and configured for taxi and ready for takeoff. Look here for why it is doing what it's doing, because there'll be the warning message will be in here. It will tell you in here what is the problem, what do you have to address, or what have you forgotten to address. Things like flaps, making sure your trim is set appropriately, and that sort of stuff. Let's have a look up here and make sure that we are in. We are. Let's start that engine. Just about finalizing the last engine start. There we go. So now flip that on. Now these stabilizer trims, I'm told they need to be in. What they actually do, I'm not sure, but I'm told that you have to click those on. Okay. So a couple of things that I want to finish off the video with. If you've enjoyed the video, if you found the video helpful, a like, comment, subscribe would be greatly appreciated. I would greatly appreciate any support in that area you're able to offer me. You know, like when you hit a like on a person's video, it allows, from what I understand, Google's algorithms to start pushing that content to more people. And the more people see it, more subscriptions, and life continues on. And that's the goal right there. Okay. So we want to make sure that we have our auto brakes set to RTO for takeoff. We also want to make sure that we have our flaps set to the prescribed flaps, 10. Now, recently there has been this issue with the 747 doing exactly what you just saw. Everything turning off. Why? I don't know, but that is what's happening for some reason or other. So everything is coming back up online. This doesn't change the fact and how you do it. There's some, by the way, I'm using the beta update, and I suspect that there's some issue within the beta update in this aircraft. But what we've done up to this point is, without a doubt, how you need to do and get yourself set up for taxiing, departure, and everything else. We are effectively configured, ready to go. The one thing I always do is I always put my LNAV, VNAV, I turn that on so that I don't forget that later. I also want to go up here and I want to make sure I put my taxi lights on. I want to make sure that my overhead lights and all of those things are set up properly. I want to turn these two pumps off because the center pumps, we don't have enough fuel in them for them to actually, need to be turned on. We want to make sure, that's all off, and we would effectively be ready for taxi at this point. Everything should be configured and set up. What you can do is you can look at your overhead, and you can turn that off because we don't need the APU anymore. But the reason why we're up here looking here is we're looking, is there any lights that are out of place, right? I wouldn't worry about these lights here, but is everything else lit up properly? Is there anything here that is wrong? One of the things that you can look at is, something that might say off. That would be wrong. Making sure that, say, for example, window heat has been turned on. Okay, so that's an important thing that needs to be turned on. All right, I'm going to cut the video there. This has got the aircraft started. All of the engines should be roaring to life and spinning away as they are, and you should be able to taxi off to the runway and gain the runway, push the throttles forward, and go. This is Raymond. Sorry, I am Raymond. This is Stream Gamers. Oh, tickle in the throat. I am Raymond. This is Stream Gamers. I would appreciate respectfully request you to give me the like and unlike if you didn't like the content. I'm happy with that too. Subscriptions are really important to me, and as always, don't sweat the little things. The little things will look after themselves. The big things, do something about the ones you can, and the ones you can't do anything about, well, you can't. Don't worry about them. And most importantly, be kind. All right, Raymond, Stream Gamers, appreciate you all, and we will get on to the next one. We'll probably do a couple more airliners before we get back down into the GA system. I do have another series coming out that I'm working on in creating a new airport, just in the wild blue yonder of Nothingville. Nothing that was there, and we're going to put a runway there or an airport there, and we're going to put hangars, and we're going to put terminal buildings. We're going to put tower. We're going to put an ILS in there. We're going to put approaches and arrivals and departures and all those wonderful things. So stay tuned for that. That should be coming out shortly. All right, bye bye now.